The flame was small, weak, almost nothing. But on a planet where no fire had burned for thousands of years, it was an act of defiance. Ethan Cole did not know that yet. All he knew was that if the fire died, he would die with it. The wreckage of the UEF Nomad lay scattered across the ice like the bones of something long dead. Twisted metal jutted from the snow. Steam hissed from a ruptured engine coil. Above it all stretched a sky too wide, too quiet, filled with stars Ethan had never seen before. He lay on his back for several seconds, staring upward, forcing his lungs to work. "Status," he whispered. His helmet display flickered, cracked down the center. "Life support. Critical. Signal beacon. Destroyed. Location. Unknown. Rescue probability. Negligible." Ethan laughed once. It came out rough and broken. "So this is how it ends." He rolled onto his side, pain exploding through his ribs. Training pushed him forward when fear tried to pin him down. Move. Assess. Survive. The cold was unlike anything he had felt before. It was not just temperature. It felt hungry, as if the planet itself was trying to pull heat from his bones. His suit's thermal system was failing. He could feel it. He dragged himself from the cockpit and began salvaging. A med pack. Half-crushed, but usable. 3 ration bars. A multi-tool. And one miracle. A manual ignition core. Old technology. Chemical spark. Reliable. Fire. Night was coming fast. The horizon darkened with unnatural speed, shadows stretching across the frozen plain. Ethan knew the signs. If he did not create shelter and heat within minutes, he would not last the night. He worked with shaking hands, stacking broken hull plates into a crude wind barrier. His breath fogged his visor. Fingers numb, he tore insulation from a panel and mixed it with brittle alien brush that snapped like glass when bent. He pressed the ignition core. Nothing. His heart pounded. He pressed again. A spark jumped. The fire caught slowly, then all at once. Orange light bloomed against the endless white. Heat kissed his frozen gloves. Ethan collapsed backward, laughing and coughing as warmth returned in painful waves. For the first time since the crash, he felt hope. He did not notice the silence. The wind stopped. The distant cracking sounds, ice shifting, strange calls echoing far away, vanished as if cut off by a blade. The planet held its breath. Ethan fed the fire, focused only on survival. He pulled off his helmet, gasping as warm air filled his lungs. The sky above him shimmered faintly, almost like a living thing reacting to the flame. Then he heard it. Crunch. Soft. Controlled. Not the sound of ice breaking naturally. Ethan's hand moved to the pulse pistol at his side. Crunch. Closer now. He rose slowly, firelight flickering across his face. His eyes scanned the darkness beyond the flames. 3 shapes stood at the edge of the light. Tall. Still. Watching. They were humanoid, but wrong in ways his instincts immediately recognized. Their skin reflected firelight like polished metal, silver with faint patterns that shifted when they moved. Their eyes glowed pale, almost colorless, catching the flame like predators' eyes on Earth. They wore light armor woven from unknown materials, flexible yet clearly designed for combat. In their hands were long, curved weapons, bows, but far more advanced than anything primitive. Hunters. The one in the center stepped forward. She was taller than the others, her posture calm and commanding. Long silver hair was pulled back tightly, exposing sharp features and eyes that missed nothing. She studied Ethan like prey that had done something unexpected. He did not raise his weapon. Neither did she. The fire crackled between them. "You burn the forbidden light," she said. The words were clear. English. Ethan froze. "You speak my language." "We speak many," she replied. "Yours is loud." One of the hunters behind her made a low sound that might have been amusement. Ethan swallowed. "I didn't mean to trespass. I crashed. I was just trying to survive." The leader's gaze flicked to the wreckage, then back to the fire. Her eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in calculation. No fire has burned on this world since the silence, she said. Yet you bring it back with broken tools and dying hands. That's usually how humans do things, Ethan said weakly. For a long moment, no one moved. Then the huntress lowered her bow. The others did not. You are brave, she said. Or foolish. Those two overlap a lot where I'm from. Something shifted in her expression. Interest. Maybe. Curiosity. I am Calith, she said. First huntress of the Velarin. Ethan Cole. Human Exploration Fleet. Calith looked at the fire again, then at the dark horizon where distant shapes moved beneath the ice clouds. The storm comes, she said. And others will smell your flame. Ethan felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. Others like animals. Her eyes returned to his. Others like us. She turned away, already walking. You will come with us, Firemaker. Or you will die alone. Ethan looked at his wrecked ship. At the fire. At the endless night closing in. He grabbed what little he could carry and followed. As they moved across the frozen world, Ethan noticed something strange. The hunters did not fear the dark. They owned it. The firelight behind them was a beacon, and he realized with sudden clarity. He was no longer lost. He was found. Ahead, a valley opened beneath them. Structures rose from the ice, carved from bone, crystal, and stone, glowing faintly with internal heat. Figures moved between them, mostly female, all watching him with intense, unreadable focus. A civilization hidden beneath the cold. A civilization that had stayed silent for a reason. Calith stopped at the edge of the settlement and turned to him. Your fire has ended our hiding, she said quietly. Nothing will be the same now. Ethan stared at the alien city, heart racing. He had come here by accident. But something told him. Humanity was no longer invisible. And the galaxy was about to learn why that mattered. The warmth inside the Velarin settlement felt unreal. Ethan Cole stood just inside the entrance of a massive dome structure, staring at walls carved from ice-hard crystal and bone. Pale blue light pulsed softly through the material, not from flames or lamps, but from something deeper, heat drawn from beneath the planet's frozen skin. He realized then that this world was not dead. It was restrained. The Huntresses escorted him inside without touching him, yet he felt surrounded at all times. Their movements were silent, coordinated, precise. Every step spoke of generations raised to survive without error. Calith walked ahead, her presence alone enough to part crowds. Velarin females gathered along the edges of the chamber, their silver skin marked with unique flowing patterns. No two were the same. All of them watched Ethan with open curiosity. Not fear. Not hostility. Interest. You are calm, Calith said without turning. Most outsiders are not. Ethan exhaled slowly. I learned a long time ago that panic wastes oxygen. That earned him a glance. A sharp one. They entered a circular hall dominated by a wide pit at its center. Heat rose from it in steady waves. No fire burned there, only glowing stone and faint energy lines pulsing beneath the surface. This is the Heart Hollow, Calith said, where decisions are weighed. 7 huntresses waited around the pit, older than the rest. Their markings were deeper, their posture heavier with authority. One rose as Calith approached. You bring a male offworlder into our core, the elder said. During the long cold. He fell from the sky, Calith replied. With enemies chasing him. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Ethan stepped forward before Calith could stop him. My people fight raiders who enslave weaker worlds, he said clearly. If they followed me here, you're already involved. The elder studied him for a long moment. Many species claim righteousness. Ethan met her gaze. Then judge us by what we do next. Silence followed. Finally, the elder nodded. You will be tested. Calith stiffened. He is under my protection. Protection does not exempt him from our laws, the elder replied. He lit forbidden fire. He woke the dark. By our way, that earns trial. Ethan frowned. Trial how? Kalith turned to him, her voice low. By the hunt. Before he could ask more, horns sounded outside, deep, resonant, vibrating through the ice itself. The Huntresses moved instantly, slipping into armor and reaching for weapons. What's happening? Ethan asked. Kalith's eyes hardened. Your fire was not the only signal. They moved fast. Outside the settlement, the sky had darkened unnaturally. Clouds churned low, swirling in tight spirals. The ground trembled beneath Ethan's boots. From the distance came a sound that made his blood run cold. Metal tearing. Energy weapons firing. Alien voices shouting in a harsh, unfamiliar tongue. Raiders. Kalith drew her bow. Scytherans. Ethan's jaw tightened. They followed me. They always follow weakness, she said. But tonight, they will find resistance. Explosions rippled across the ice fields as dark, angular ships descended, cutting through the clouds like blades. Troops spilled out, tall, armored, cruelly efficient. Their weapons glowed with violet energy. The Velarin did not charge. They vanished. Ethan barely saw them move. One moment the Huntresses were beside him. The next, the battlefield swallowed them. Shadows became weapons. Scytheran soldiers fell without warning, arrows punching through armor, blades flashing from nowhere. The Velarin struck fast and disappeared again, never fighting where they could be seen. Ethan ducked behind a crystal ridge as energy bolts scorched the ice around him. He fired back, pulse shots finding targets with practiced precision. But there were too many. Kalith, he shouted. She appeared beside him as if summoned by his voice. You survive well for Softworlder. Thanks. I try. A Scytheran war unit advanced, heavy armor bristling with weapons. Their leader raised a device pulsing with dark energy. Shield breaker, Ethan muttered. That'll collapse your defenses. Kalith frowned. Then stop it. Ethan looked at the terrain, the ice, the heat lines beneath the surface. An idea sparked. Your ground draws energy upward, he said quickly. Can you overload it? She understood instantly. Kalith gave a sharp whistle. The Huntresses shifted positions, drawing the Scytherans inward. Ethan sprinted forward under covering fire, sliding across the ice toward the energy pit. He jammed his multitool into a vent seam and rerouted the flow. Now, he yelled. Kalith fired. Her arrow struck the vent at the exact moment the pressure peaked. The ground erupted in a controlled explosion of superheated vapor. The Scytheran unit was thrown back, armor shattered, weapons dead. The remaining raiders broke. They fled to their ships, lifting off under relentless fire from the Huntresses who now emerged openly, fearless and lethal. Silence returned. Ethan collapsed to one knee, breathing hard. Kalith stood before him, eyes blazing, not with anger, but with something fierce and unfamiliar. You turned our world into a weapon, she said. You had the pieces, Ethan replied. I just connected them. The elders approached slowly. The human fought beside us, one said. And used mind, not strength. The first elder nodded. The hunt is satisfied. Kalith placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. By our law, she said, you are no longer prey. Ethan looked up at her. What does that make me? Her lips curved slightly. Dangerous. As the Velarin gathered around him, not as captors, but as allies, Ethan understood something profound. Humanity had not survived the stars by accident. And this frozen world was about to remember that truth. The Velarin did not celebrate victory the way humans did. There were no cheers. No raised voices. No rituals of triumph. Instead, there was stillness. Ethan Cole noticed it as he stood at the edge of the settlement, watching the last Scytheran ship vanish into the storm-torn sky. The Huntresses gathered their fallen arrows in silence, checking armor, tending wounds with calm efficiency. Every motion had purpose. Emotion, when shown at all, was tightly contained. Yet he felt it beneath the surface. Relief. Respect. And something close to wonder. Calith approached him as the light of false dawn spread across the ice. "You should have died," she said plainly. Ethan snorted. "I hear that a lot." "You stood where you should not have stood," she continued. "You saw patterns we did not. You changed the ground itself." "That's just problem solving," Ethan said. "Humans survive by noticing things others ignore." Calith studied him. "That may be why your kind still exists." Later, inside the Heart Hollow, the elders summoned him again. This time, he was not alone. The entire inner circle of the Velarin clan stood around the heat pit. Some watched him with curiosity, others with suspicion, none with hostility. "The Scytherans grow bolder," the first elder said. "They return in greater numbers each season." "They're expanding," Ethan replied. "And they don't stop unless they're stopped hard." Calith's gaze sharpened. "You speak as if you know them." "My people have fought them across 3 sectors," Ethan said. "They probe. They test. When resistance looks weak, they commit everything." The chamber murmured. "We have survived by hiding," one elder said. "And they found you anyway," Ethan replied gently. Silence followed. Calith stepped forward. "What would your people do?" Ethan hesitated. He felt the weight of the moment. These were hunters who had lived in silence for generations. Asking them to change was asking them to risk extinction. "We'd adapt," he said finally. "Not by becoming louder, but by becoming smarter." He activated his wrist display, projecting a rough hologram using the last of his suit's power. It showed the ice fields, the settlement, the buried heat lines. "You already have the advantage," he said. "Your world is hostile. You understand it better than anyone. You don't need fleets." He highlighted choke points, thermal vents, ice fault lines. "You need traps," he said. "Layers. Make every step they take cost them." The elders leaned in. "For centuries," Ethan continued, "the Scytherans have hunted you. Let them learn what it feels like to be hunted by a thinking enemy." Calith's lips curved faintly. "You suggest we become human. I suggest you borrow the parts that work." Training began that same cycle. Ethan worked alongside the Huntresses, teaching them concepts humans learned early: deception at scale, misdirection, psychological pressure. He showed them how to fake signals, how to lure enemies into terrain that looked harmless but wasn't. In return, they taught him their ways. How to move without sound across open ice. How to read subtle shifts in temperature that signaled danger. How to fight without being seen. Calith trained him personally. "You rely too much on vision," she said, correcting his stance during a spar. "Feel the air." "And you rely too much on tradition," he shot back, barely dodging her strike. She paused, then nodded. "Fair." Over time, something shifted. The Velarin began to speak more, to ask questions, to argue. Ideas flowed instead of remaining locked behind ritual. And Ethan realized something unsettling. They were not primitive. They were restrained. The truth came during a patrol beyond the settlement. Calith led Ethan to a ridge overlooking a massive frozen structure half buried beneath ice. Its shape was unmistakable. A ship. Not Scytheran. Not Velarin. Human. Old. Ancient. "My people call this the sleeping giant," Calith said. "It fell generations ago." Ethan felt his throat tighten. Did anyone survive? "One," she said. "He taught us fire once. And then we learned fear." She gestured toward the ship. "He warned us that loud worlds attract monsters." Ethan understood then. The Velarin hadn't abandoned technology. They had chosen silence. Back at the settlement, the warning came. Scouts returned breathless, not from exhaustion, but urgency. "Scytheran war group," one reported. "Larger than before." "How long?" Calith asked. "2 cycles." Ethan exhaled. "That's not a raid. That's an invasion." The elders gathered. Fear rippled through the clan. Ethan stepped forward. They expect you to hide, he said. So don't. The plan formed quickly. Signals planted in false locations. Heat vents primed for collapse. Ice sheets weakened beneath enemy approach paths. And one final piece. Ethan stood before the elders. I need access to the sleeping giant. Caliph stared at him. That ship has not moved in centuries. I don't need it to fly, he said. I need it to speak. The Scytherans arrived confident. Their ships descended into the ice fields, scanners blind to what lay beneath. Troops advanced in tight formations, weapons ready. Then the ground turned against them. Ice collapsed. Heat vents erupted. Signals screamed from everywhere and nowhere. Velarin arrows fell like judgment. And then, the sleeping giant awoke. A human distress signal echoed across the battlefield, amplified, ancient, unmistakable. This is a human-controlled world. Leave or be erased. The Scytherans hesitated. That hesitation cost them everything. By the time they retreated, they left ships, bodies, and certainty behind. As silence returned once more, Caliph stood beside Ethan, watching smoke fade into the sky. You broke our silence, she said. Ethan smiled tiredly. Only to protect it. She looked at him, silver eyes steady. The galaxy will hear of this. Good, Ethan said. It's time they remembered us. The Scytherans did not retreat in panic. They retreated in fear. That mattered. Ethan Cole watched their ships burn through the upper clouds, engines screaming as they fled the Velarin world at full burn. Even damaged vessels refused to slow, as if the planet itself might reach up and pull them back. Caliph stood beside him on the ridge, her silver skin reflecting the pale dawn. They will speak of this, she said. They already are, Ethan replied. Fear travels faster than fleets. Within hours, long-range sensors, ancient Velarin instruments reactivated under Ethan's guidance, began to register movement far beyond the system. Signals bounced through relay shadows. Coded bursts whispered across space. The galaxy was listening. For centuries, the Velarin had been a myth. A dead world. A frozen trap that swallowed ships and returned nothing but silence. Now that silence was broken. And worse for their enemies, it spoke with a human voice. The elders gathered in the Heart Hollow once more. But this time, the chamber felt different. Brighter. Louder. Alive. You have drawn eyes upon us, one elder said, not accusing, simply stating fact. Ethan nodded. That was inevitable. Hiding works until someone stronger stops believing the lie. Caliph folded her arms. The Scytherans will return. With allies. They always do, Ethan said. Which means we need friends of our own. The first elder studied him carefully. You would bring more of your kind here. Yes, Ethan said. But not as conquerors. As witnesses. Using scavenged power cells from the battlefield and the sleeping giant's ancient transmitter, Ethan constructed a tight beam signal, human encryption layered over Velarin modulation. It was risky. If intercepted by the wrong ears, it would confirm everything the Scytherans feared. But hesitation was a luxury no longer available. Ethan sent the message. To any United Earth Fleet vessel receiving. Velarin system is active. Hostile Scytheran expansion confirmed. Indigenous allies present. Humanity not alone. Then he waited. The response came 3 days later. A human warship translated into the outer system in a blaze of controlled light. The UEF Resolute. From orbit, its captain studied the scans in silence. A frozen world. Ancient wreckage fields. Energy signatures that should not exist. And a single human life sign standing openly on the ice. Captain Maravos did not hesitate. She descended. The landing was clean, precise. When the ramp lowered, Ethan stood waiting, Velarin Huntresses flanking him openly, weapons visible but lowered. Human marines froze. Aliens. Standing beside a human. Not attacking. Captain Voss stepped forward, helmet off. Her eyes moved from Ethan to Caliph, then back again. "Lieutenant Cole," she said slowly, "your report was unexpected." Ethan smiled. "You should see the neighbors." The meeting that followed would be recorded later as the most important unplanned contact event in human expansion history. Velarin elders spoke openly. No deception. No grandstanding. Only truth. The Scytherans enslaved worlds. They erased cultures. And they feared humans, not for their weapons, but for their refusal to surrender. Captain Voss listened. Then she did something that shocked everyone. She bowed. "To the Velarin," she said. "On behalf of humanity, I apologize for arriving late." Kalith inclined her head in return. "You arrived when needed." The alliance formed not through treaties, but through shared scars. Human engineers repaired Velarin systems long thought unusable. Velarin hunters taught human marines how to fight in silence, how to disappear and strike without warning. And above all, both learned something unsettling. The Scytherans had been preparing for war far larger than a single frozen world. They were forming a coalition. One meant to erase humanity before it could spread further. The warning came too late to stop it. Scytheran fleets moved across multiple sectors simultaneously, striking human outposts and neutral worlds alike. They carried a message now. Submit, or vanish. Humanity did not submit. Nor did the Velarin. Ethan found himself standing beside Kalith aboard the Resolute, staring at a star map filled with hostile vectors. "Your people will suffer for this," she said quietly. "So will mine," Ethan replied. "But not alone." Kalith looked at him. "You changed our fate with fire." He shook his head. "You just needed a reason to step out of the dark." The first joint strike came without warning. Human ships engaged Scytheran fleets head-on, drawing attention. Velarin strike teams moved unseen, disabling command vessels from within asteroid shadows and nebula fields. The Scytherans had never faced enemies who fought like this. They were used to fear. They were not prepared for cooperation. Word spread fast. Other silent worlds began to answer. Civilizations long thought extinct emerged from hiding, drawn by the same truth the Velarin had learned. Humanity did not dominate. Humanity connected. By the time the Scytherans realized their mistake, the galaxy had shifted. Humanity was no longer a rumor whispered by frightened raiders. It was a signal. A warning. A promise. Ethan stood on the bridge as the Resolute prepared to jump, Kalith beside him, no longer as guide or protector, but as equal. "Whatever comes next," she said, "there is no returning to silence." Ethan smiled grimly. "Good. Silence never suited us anyway." Stars stretched. The fleet vanished into light. And the galaxy braced itself. Hope was never meant to be a weapon. Yet that was exactly what humanity turned it into. The Scytheran coalition expected panic. They expected fragmentation. They expected humanity's allies to scatter the moment true war arrived. They were wrong. Across contested space, signals ignited like stars being born. Worlds that had hidden for centuries broke their silence. Species that had survived by avoidance chose defiance instead, not because they believed they could win, but because humans had shown them something dangerous. That resistance did not require perfection. Only unity. Ethan Cole stood on the bridge of the UEF Resolute as the combined fleet assembled. Human cruisers formed the visible line, bright, loud, defiant. But beneath and around them moved Velarin strike vessels and ships from half a dozen newly revealed civilizations, running dark, silent, and deadly. Kalith watched the star map beside him. "So many," she said softly. "They were never gone. Only waiting." "For a reason," Ethan replied. The Scytherans arrived in overwhelming force. Their fleet darkened space itself, ships layered upon ships, weapons primed to erase resistance in one decisive blow. They broadcast first. "Humanity, you have spread chaos. Withdraw your influence, abandon these worlds, and we will allow your species to survive." Captain Mara Voss did not respond. She simply gave the order. "Begin Phase 1. Human ships surged forward, shields blazing, drawing every Scythian sensor and weapon toward them. Energy fire lit the void, battles erupting across multiple vectors. The Scythians smiled. This was familiar. This was brute force. Then Phase 2 began. Velarin teams breached command ships undetected, striking navigation cores and communications arrays. Alien allies jammed targeting systems with non-standard signals humans had helped design, patterns that looked like noise until it was too late. Entire Scythian squadrons drifted blind. Panic rippled through their formation. Then Ethan activated the final signal. Not a threat. A broadcast. Human voices echoed across every open channel. Stories, not commands. Tales of worlds saved, of alliances formed, of resistance that did not require domination. Translated instantly, imperfectly, but powerfully. The message was simple. You are not alone. You never were. And you do not need to kneel. The effect was immediate. Ships from the coalition hesitated. Some turned their weapons aside. Others powered down entirely. The Scythians screamed in fury. They launched their last weapon. A planet killer. A massive energy construct designed to shatter worlds into debris fields, a message to any who dared resist. It targeted the Velarin homeworld. Kalith went very still. They would erase us, she said. To make a point. Ethan's voice was calm. They won't. He transmitted a single command. The sleeping giant answered. The ancient human ship, repaired, reinforced, reborn, rose from beneath Velarin ice like a legend returning. Its weapons were obsolete by modern standards. Its power source was not. A focused discharge ripped through space, destabilizing the planet killer's core before it could fire. The Scythian superweapon collapsed inward, tearing itself apart in a silent explosion of light. The battlefield froze. Then, one by one, Scythian ships disengaged. Some fled. Some surrendered. Some simply drifted, their crews realizing for the first time that conquest was no longer inevitable. The war ended not with annihilation, but with refusal. Refusal to obey. Refusal to fear. Refusal to forget. In the aftermath, the galaxy changed faster than it ever had before. Trade routes reopened under shared protection. Silent worlds joined open councils. Species once preyed upon began to defend one another. And humanity. Humanity did not rule. They connected. Ethan stood once more on the frozen ridge where it had all begun. The fire burned again, no longer alone, surrounded by Velarin lights and human beacons alike. Kalith joined him. You never claimed this world, she said. Ethan shook his head. It was never ours to claim. She considered that. Then smiled, a rare, genuine expression. The galaxy will remember this, she said. They will say humanity brought fire. Ethan stared into the flame. No. Fire was always there. He looked at her. We just reminded everyone how to use it. Above them, stars burned brighter than before, not because the universe had changed, but because someone had finally dared to stand up and say, "We are here. We will help. And we will not disappear." And that was why the galaxy learned to fear human hope. Because once ignited, it never went out.